In this screencast, we'll review the Site Settings section on the back end of your Real Geeks website. Understanding and configuring your site settings are an important step in building and editing your site, because this is where you'll determine most of the title, search, and image defaults for your pages. So let's get started. While logged in to the back end of your site administration page, locate the Site Settings button towards the bottom of the page. Now, the site settings are organized by tabs at the top of the page. So let's go in order and start here with Common Settings. The first field gives you the option to have comments on your blog forwarded to a specific email address. I've entered my personal email address. In the example to the right, a user has posted a comment and I've been notified through email. In the email, I can read the comment, see where it was posted, and also moderate it on the back end using the links embedded in the email. This is a great way to stay in the loop of public activity on your site. Now, the next setting is for users who want to link their Google Analytics account to their Real Geeks website. For those of you who aren't familiar, Google Analytics is a free tool that tracks and reports your website traffic. You can find your tracking ID on the administrative backend of your Google Analytics account. You'll want to copy and paste this on the backend here to link your website to it. Now, if you were just coming into this section to do a few edits, you'd want to hit Save. But let's go to the next tab labeled Template Options. So the first thing here is the horizontal homepage search setting. This default setting is set to false. If you click on the drop-down menu, pay attention to the change in the example to the right. When set to false, the search box is left justified in a vertical format, but when the setting is true, it's centered in a horizontal format. I've selected false, which is the default, because it's easy to read, organized, and doesn't get lost in my background image. Next, we have the header phone setting. This will appear site-wide at the top of your primary navigation bar. So in the example to the right, you can see the telephone icon, and when clicked on, the phone number will appear. You can close it by Xing out. Now keep in mind, if you don't enter anything in this header phone field on the back end, the icon will not be visible on the front. Next, we have our detail phone number setting. This refers to property detail pages. In the example to the right, we see a property detail page. If I scroll down, the detail phone appears in two sections on the page. Once in the lower right, where the bold green button reads Contact Us, and once more in the form of the phone icon labeled Call Us. If you click on it, the number will be displayed and the user can call the agent directly from here. Again, if this field is left blank, the section and icons will not appear on the front end. In the next section, we can add an image to the detail section of the property detail page. This works well if you want to add an image or logo to further customize your pages. So to add an image, you want to click on this icon to the right, and it will open up the file browser. From the file browser, you can scan through your different images, and when you find the one you want to use, click on the little arrow here, and it will select that image. The image will automatically be scaled down for this specific section. So take a look at the front end. Again, here's our property page, and above the phone number, we see our custom image we've added. The next item on the list is the default header image for your site. This is the big landscape image behind the search on every page. You can override this manually when building out your individual content and area pages. But for now, I've already uploaded a custom image that matches the color scheme and sizing of my current site. I use the file browser to do so, and the current site looks like this. But let's take a look at our gallery feature, which is a great place to start because the images have been sized to fit the dimensions of our new designs. Now, if you select this option and then click on the button labeled Open Gallery, it will take you to a library of pre-selected photos. These are all royalty-free images, and they may be used in place of your own photos. you'll find several images to choose from. So scroll through to pick the one that best suits your page, and then click Choose. Here we see the updated edit to the home page with a landscape image sized properly. We highly encourage you to pick from the gallery or upload your own image, but in the off chance that you don't do either of these, there's the default, which if selected, displays a generic image to be used as a placeholder when first creating your site. It'll look something like this, but I don't want to use that setting, so I'll select the custom image and stick with that. Next, you can upload your header logo, which sits in the upper left-hand corner of your site. I've already selected a photo using the file browser, which you can access through this icon here on the right, just as we saw earlier with the detail page photo. Now the next setting is the header logo alt text. Alt text is a word or phrase that can be inserted in place of an image as an attribute that tells website viewers the nature or the contents of the particular image. For those of you who want to partake in this, feel free to load this field up with descriptive text. But as Google practices have evolved, this has become unnecessary because Google can search actual images now, and we don't have to describe what is being shown on either end. The next item on the list is the big search title. This is the big heading that sits at the top of the search box on most pages, excluding area pages and foreclosure pages. You can override this default setting manually as you build out each individual page. Then we have the foreclosure big search title. This is the big heading that sits at the top of the search box only on the foreclosure page. You can set this up here, but once again, it can be changed when manually adding the foreclosure page in the content section of your site. Then there's the secondary bottom navigation bar header, which can be used to describe or call out the second navigation. If you leave this field blank, the header won't show up on the front end, but here you see it above my list of islands next to the footer of my page. Next, we can upload a custom header image for the blog. So once again, we're referencing the big image at the top of the blog page, behind the search box. There's an image here, but let's say I want to change it. So again, I'll click on the file browser, find my image that I want to use instead, and click on the little arrow next to it, which will select it and override my previous selection. Here's what it looks like on the front end. Again, this only applies to my blog page, and I can override this setting when building out my page later if I wanted to. At the bottom here, we have a similar setting to the alt text we saw earlier, except in this case, it'd be applied only to the blog header image. But again, Google search engine practices have evolved significantly, and inputting alt text is unnecessary, so I'm going to leave it blank. Again, if I were just editing my settings, I'd click Save, but let's keep going. So let's scroll back to the top and select the third tab, which is Advanced Settings. So most of this criteria is spelled out next to the title of each rule on this page. But let's walk through this with front-end examples to better understand what we're editing here. So first we have Index Detailed Properties. This setting applies to whether or not you want your detailed property pages to be linked to search engines. Keep in mind that unless you're an authoritative site, that if set to true, this could actually hurt you. This is a personal decision and there's no correct answer for every situation, but we generally recommend you build up your site as an authority before enabling this, because if you aren't an authority, then Google will read your site and its content as a copycat, because there's a high chance that your content details, like property addresses, will overlap with someone who's actually an authoritative site. So I've set mine to false, because I'm not an authoritative site, and I don't want my content linked to search engines and read as duplicates. Then we have the Content Page Property Lead Capture. This refers to the featured properties that are pulled in on a default search page. When a property is clicked on, if set to true, the pop-up lead capture will show up immediately. If set to false, the lead can see the property without signing up. We value capturing the lead above all things, so our default is set to true, as is my choice in the dropdown. Next, we have our address search property lead capture. This refers to the advanced search feature, where a user can search a specific address. When an address is searched and a property is selected in the search dropdown, when set to true, the pop-up lead capture will show up immediately. If set to false, then the lead can see the property without signing up. But again, the goal here is to capture the lead, so our default is set to true, as is my selection in the dropdown. This next setting is the lead capture on property number, which is dictated by the number you choose in the drop-down menu here. This means that a lead can click on X amount of properties before being prompted to sign up. Keep in mind, if you select 0 in the drop-down here, then it will disable the forced sign-up. Then there's the option to require a CAPTCHA to fill out the comment form on the blog. This is used for security measures against spam bots. Mine is set on the default, which requires the CAPTCHA. This saves you a lot of time instead of scanning comments for auto spammers because it requires that the user type what is shown in order to post their comment. Next, you have the ability to determine whether and where the address search in the sidebar will go. So keep an eye on the section here. The first example shows no address search box. Then you'll see the address box populate the space above the social media buttons. And lastly, it populates below. I prefer below because it sits well with the content to follow in the sidebar. That way, socials are introduced and the rest of my sidebar fills up with address, area, and community details. And lastly, we have our market report setting. Market reports display a condensed view of active, under contract, and sold listings. If a new user lands on a market report page and clicks on a property listed, if set to true, then they will be forced to sign up before viewing a market report results page. If set to false, then they'll be able to click through the properties without capturing their details. Once again, we can't emphasize it enough, how important it is to capture the lead. So here you see that I've selected the default, which is true. So let's scroll to the top of the page for the final tab listed as mobile. Now, if you're using a new design like I am, you'll notice that the mobile tab is left blank. This is because your site is now responsive, which means it's been designed to detect the viewer's screen, and it will scale accordingly. However, if you do see details under the mobile section, that's because these are holdovers from our old set of designs, which need to be configured manually for mobile. So let's save the work in this section so that all changes are applied on the front end. So there you have it. If you configure your site on the back end properly, it'll save a lot of work in the long run because all of your settings will be saved, and minor changes can be made along the way to better customize your content. Thanks for joining us and learning more about the site settings of your Real Geeks website. Please check out our docs at docs.realgeeks.com to edit and add other page styles, sidebars, navigations, upload images, widgets, videos, along with all other technical features for your Real Geeks website.